The perfect life shattered. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're ready to dive into this incredible story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Tomorrow I'll bring you another story just as captivating as this one, and you won't want to miss it. Elena Martinez stood in the doorway of her Seattle art gallery, watching the rain paint silver streaks down the floor-to-ceiling windows. At 29, she had everything she'd ever dreamed of. The Martinez Gallery showcased emerging artists and had become one of the city's most respected venues. Her marriage to David Chun, a successful architect, seemed like something from a romance novel. They lived in a beautiful craftsman home in Capitol Hill, traveled to art fairs across the country, and hosted dinner parties that lasted until midnight. But perfection, Elena would soon learn, is often just a beautiful lie waiting to crack. Started with small things. David working later hours. Text messages that made him smile in ways Elena hadn't seen in months. A new cologne that smelled expensive and unfamiliar. Rebecca, Elena's best friend since college, suddenly too busy for their weekly coffee dates. When Rebecca did show up, she wore new jewelry and talked nervously about nothing important. Elena told herself she was imagining things. Stress from the gallery's upcoming exhibition was making her paranoid. David loved her. Rebecca was her closest friend, the sister she'd never had. These were the two people she trusted most in the world. ## the night everything changed. The truth arrived on a Tuesday evening in March. Elena had returned early from a cancelled meeting with a sculptor from Portland. She pulled into the driveway and noticed Rebecca's distinctive red sedan parked down the street. Strange. Rebecca hadn't mentioned stopping by. Elena entered through the back door, calling out to David. Silence answered her. Then she heard it. Laughter from upstairs. Her husband's deep chuckle mixed with Rebecca's familiar giggle. The sound floated down the stairs like poison in the air. Elena's hands trembled as she climbed the steps. Each footfall felt like walking through water. The bedroom door stood slightly open. Through the gap she saw them. David and Rebecca tangled in sheets that Elena had washed just that morning. They were so focused on each other they didn't notice her standing there, frozen in the doorway. We need to speed up the timeline, Rebecca was saying, running her fingers through David's hair. The sooner we get control of the gallery and her family's trust fund, the sooner we can be together openly. David kissed Rebecca's shoulder. Patience, baby. The documents are almost ready. Once she signs the partnership papers I drew up, the gallery becomes joint property. And I've already got the power of attorney forms for her grandmother's estate. Elena trusts me completely. She'll sign anything I put in front of her. What about after? Rebecca asked. She won't just walk away quietly. David's voice went cold. We've talked about this. The hiking trip next month. Accidents happen in the mountains all the time. Elena's vision blurred. Her ears rang. This couldn't be real. But it was. The two people she loved most had been planning her destruction. Not just betrayal but theft and murder. She backed away slowly, carefully until she reached the stairs. Then she ran. ## escape to the coast. Elena drove for hours, her mind numb with shock. She didn't remember deciding on a destination, but her car seemed to know where to go. By midnight, she arrived at her grandmother's old cabin on the Washington coast, 3 hours north of Seattle. The cabin sat alone on a cliff overlooking the Pacific Ocean, surrounded by ancient pine trees that whispered secrets in the wind. Her grandmother Maria had died 2 years ago, leaving Elena this property and a trust fund that Elena had barely touched. Now she understood why David had been so interested in managing her finances. How long had he been planning this? Had he ever loved her at all? Elena stumbled into the dark cabin, not bothering with lights. She collapsed on the old couch that still smelled faintly of her grandmother's lavender perfume, and finally let herself cry. Great shaking sobs that tore through her chest. Everything she believed about her life had been a lie. She must have fallen asleep because she woke to pale morning light filtering through dusty windows. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back, and the pain was fresh all over again. Elena walked to the kitchen, searching for coffee or tea, anything to help her think. That's when she noticed the journal on the counter. It hadn't been there last night. She was sure of it. The leather cover was old but well maintained, and her grandmother's name was embossed in gold on the front. With shaking hands, Elena opened it. Her grandmother's elegant handwriting filled the pages, but the content made no sense. It spoke of the gift, of fire in the blood, of ancient families with abilities that normal people couldn't understand. There were drawings of symbols Elena didn't recognize, and warnings about those who hunt the gifted ones. "Your grandmother was a remarkable woman," a deep voice said from the doorway. Elena spun around, heart hammering. A man stood in the entrance, silhouetted against the morning light. He was tall and lean, with dark hair that fell to his shoulders and eyes that seemed to reflect the light like a cat's. He wore simple clothes, jeans and a dark sweater, but carried himself with unusual grace. "Who are you?" Elena demanded, looking around for a weapon. "How did you get in here?" ## the mysterious guardian. The stranger raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "My name is Adrian Cross. I've been watching over this place since your grandmother passed. She asked me to protect it, and to watch for you." "Watching me?" Elena's fear spiked. "Are you working with David? Did he send you?" Adrian's expression darkened. "I know about your husband and your friend. I know what they're planning. That's part of why I'm here. You're in more danger than you realize, Elena. The threat isn't just from David and Rebecca. How do you know my name? How do you know about them?" Elena backed toward the kitchen, where she remembered seeing a knife block. "Your grandmother told me about you. She knew this day would come, when you'd need protection and guidance. She made me promise to help you when the time came." Adrian stepped fully into the cabin, and Elena got a better look at him. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, with sharp features and a scar that ran from his left eyebrow into his hairline. But his eyes were older somehow, as if they'd seen far more than any 30-year-old should have. "My grandmother died 2 years ago," Elena said slowly. "Why didn't you contact me before?" "Because you weren't ready. The gift doesn't fully awaken until trauma breaks down the walls we build around ourselves. Your grandmother knew you'd face betrayal. She saw it coming, though she couldn't prevent it. She could only prepare for it." Elena's head spun. "You're not making sense. What gift? What are you talking about?" Adrian moved to the fireplace and knelt beside it. There was no wood, no kindling, nothing that should burn. He held out his hand, and Elena watched in shock as a small flame appeared in his palm. Not from a lighter or match. The fire simply existed, dancing across his skin without burning him. "Your grandmother had abilities, Elena. Powers that run in your bloodline. Fire was hers to command, and light and healing warmth. She kept it hidden from most of the world, but there are others like us. And there are those who hunt us, who want to steal our gifts for themselves." The flame in Adrian's hand grew larger, brighter, then vanished as he closed his fist. "David and Rebecca didn't choose you by accident. They're connected to people who know what you are, even if you don't. They want your grandmother's estate, yes, but they want something far more valuable. They want your power. ## awakening powers. Elena sat down heavily, her legs no longer able to support her. "This is insane. People don't have magical powers. Fire doesn't just appear in people's hands." "Look at the journal again," Adrian said gently. "Really look at it." Elena opened the leather-bound book with trembling fingers. This time, words that had seemed like nonsense began to make sense. Her grandmother hadn't been speaking in metaphors. She'd been describing real abilities, real experiences. There were dates going back decades, recordings of moments when the gift had manifested. One entry caught Elena's attention. It was dated 5 years before her grandmother's death. "Today I met Adrian Cross. He carries the weight of centuries in his eyes, though he looks young. He's cursed, bound to walk the earth until he fulfills his debt. I've asked him to watch over Elena when I'm gone. He owes my family a life, and this will be how he repays it." "What does this mean?" Elena asked, showing Adrian the page. "You owe my family a life?" Adrian's expression filled with old pain. 50 years ago, your great-grandmother saved me from execution. I had been accused of murder, though I was innocent. She used her influence and her gifts to prove the truth and free me. But there was a price. I was bound by supernatural law to serve your family until the debt was repaid. Saving your life will complete that obligation. 50 years ago? Elena stared at him. That's impossible. You'd be old. Yes. The binding keeps me alive, young, trapped until I fulfill my purpose. Your grandmother understood this. She knew dark forces would come for you eventually. People like us, we're valuable to those who know how to harvest our powers. Before Elena could respond, the cabin's windows exploded inward. Glass sprayed across the room like deadly rain. Elena threw her arms up to protect her face, but the glass never touched her. She opened her eyes to see flames surrounding her in a protective circle, burning away the shards before they could reach her. Did I do that? She whispered. Your power is awakening, Adrian said, his own hands wreathed in fire. And we have company. Through the broken windows, Elena saw figures moving in the trees. They wore dark clothes and moved with unnatural speed, flickering between shadows like they were part of the darkness itself. Their eyes glowed with pale, sickly light. Shadow hunters, Adrian explained, his voice tense. They serve the Obsidian Court, a group that collects powerful individuals and drains their abilities. David and Rebecca made a deal with them. In exchange for helping capture you, they'd receive wealth and influence. One of the shadow hunters leaped through the window, moving faster than Elena's eyes could track. Adrian met it midair, fire blazing from his hands. The creature screamed, a sound like metal scraping on metal, and dissolved into smoke. How many are there? Elena asked, feeling power build inside her chest. It felt like pressure, like heat, like something desperate to break free. Too many for me to fight alone, Adrian admitted. Elena, you need to let go. Stop fighting what you are. Your grandmother's power runs through your blood. Use it. Another shadow hunter came through the door. Elena raised her hands instinctively, and fire erupted from her palms. It was terrifying and exhilarating. The flames were part of her, responding to her will. The creature burned away, screaming. More came, a dozen at least, pouring through every opening. Adrian fought beside Elena, his movements practiced and deadly. But Elena was wild, untrained, pure instinct and raw power. Fire filled the cabin, but it didn't burn the furniture or walls. It only consumed the shadow hunters, as if the flames knew friend from foe. When the last creature dissolved, Elena collapsed to her knees, exhausted. The flames winked out, leaving the cabin untouched except for the broken windows. What just happened to me? She gasped. Adrian knelt beside her, his hand gentle on her shoulder. You just took your first step into a larger world, Elena Martinez. And I'm sorry, but this is only the beginning. David and Rebecca won't stop. The Obsidian Court won't stop. They know what you are now, and they'll come with everything they have. Then we need to be ready, Elena said, surprised by the strength in her own voice. The betrayal still hurt. Her heart was still broken. But something new was rising in her chest. Not just power but purpose. Teach me. Teach me everything. ## truth and consequences. Over the next 3 days, Adrian began Elena's training. The work was exhausting, physically and emotionally. Fire manipulation required absolute focus and emotional control. Too much anger, and the flames became destructive. Too much fear, and they wouldn't come at all. Adrian proved to be a patient but demanding teacher. He'd been using his abilities for decades, and his knowledge ran deep. He taught Elena to summon fire without thought, to shape it into walls and weapons, to sense the heat in all living things. But the training sessions also brought them closer. In quiet moments between lessons, Adrian shared pieces of his long life. He'd been born in 1940, lived a normal human existence until the day he was wrongly accused. Elena's great-grandmother had seen the truth with her gifts and saved him, but the supernatural binding that kept him alive also kept him isolated. He'd watched decades pass, unable to form lasting connections, waiting for the day he could fulfill his debt. Don't you resent it? Elena asked one evening as they sat by the restored fire. Adrian had repaired the cabin's windows with his abilities, fusing glass and wood in ways that shouldn't be possible. Being bound against your will? At first, yes, Adrian admitted. But your family has been kind to me. Your great-grandmother treated me like a son. Your grandmother was like a sister. They gave me purpose when I had none. Saving you won't just free me, Elena. It will honor them. Elena felt her chest tighten. What happens after? After you save me and the debt is paid? Adrian stared into the flames. I don't know. I'll finally be able to age, to die like normal humans. Maybe that will be a relief. Or maybe, Elena said quietly, you'll finally be able to live. Their eyes met, and Elena felt something spark between them. Something neither of them was ready to name yet, but that hummed with possibility. The moment shattered when Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it and his expression went dark. We have a problem. My contacts in the supernatural community are reporting unusual activity. The Obsidian Court is mobilizing. They're sending a full extraction team. When? Elena asked. 2 days. Maybe less. Adrian stood and began pacing. We need to move. This cabin is too isolated. If they trap us here, we're finished. No, Elena said firmly. Running won't solve anything. They'll just keep hunting me. I need to face David and Rebecca. I need to understand what they're really involved in. That's suicide. You've only been training for 3 days. Then we have 2 more days to prepare. Elena stood as well, fire dancing across her fingertips without conscious thought. I'm done being a victim, Adrian. They took my husband, my best friend, my trust. They tried to take my life. Now they want my power. I say we give them fire instead. Adrian studied her for a long moment, then slowly smiled. Your grandmother would be proud. You have her courage. Then help me. Help me become strong enough to end this. On one condition, Adrian said. We do this smart. Not with rage but with strategy. We gather information first. Find out exactly who David and Rebecca are working with. Learn the Obsidian Court's weaknesses. Then we strike. Elena nodded. Agreed. Where do we start? With someone I never thought I'd ask for help again, Adrian said, pulling out his phone. Someone who owes me a favor and has connections in both the human and supernatural worlds. Her name is Victoria Rains, and she's the most dangerous person I've ever met. As Adrian made the call, Elena walked to the window and stared out at the dark ocean. Waves crashed against the cliffs below, relentless and powerful. She felt like those waves now. Broken by what she'd discovered, but gathering strength, preparing to crash back against those who'd hurt her. David and Rebecca had made a terrible mistake. They'd pushed her into awakening powers they couldn't understand. They'd given her a reason to become something more than the trusting woman she'd been. The dangerous alliance. Victoria Rains arrived at dawn in a sleek black car that purred like a predator. She stepped out wearing designer clothes that somehow looked both elegant and dangerous. Her silver hair was cut short, framing a face that could have been anywhere from 40 to 400 years old. Her eyes, pale gray like winter ice, swept over the cabin with professional assessment. Adrian Cross, she said, her voice carrying a slight British accent. I never thought you'd call in your favor. Must be something serious. Life or death, Adrian replied, moving to stand beside Elena protectively. Victoria, this is Elena Martinez. She's newly awakened and being hunted by the Obsidian Court. Victoria's expression didn't change, but Elena noticed her posture shift subtly. The Martinez bloodline. I should have known. Your grandmother was legendary in our circles, dear. Her death was felt across the supernatural community. She extended her hand to Elena. I'm sorry for your loss. Maria was a good woman in a world that doesn't produce many. Elena shook her hand, surprised by the genuine warmth. Thank you. Did you know her well? We crossed paths a few times over the decades. She once saved my life during a particularly nasty situation in Prague. I never got to repay that debt. Victoria's ice-gray eyes studied Elena intently. But perhaps I can repay it now by helping her granddaughter. Tell me everything. They gathered inside, and Elena explained the full story. David's betrayal. Rebecca's involvement. The shadow hunters. The conspiracy to steal her inheritance and her powers. Victoria listened without interruption, her expression growing darker. The Obsidian Court has been expanding aggressively, Victoria said when Elena finished. They're led by a man named Marcus Thorne, who's been collecting powered individuals for 50 years. He keeps them imprisoned and drains their abilities slowly, using ancient rituals to transfer power to himself and his inner circle. That's monstrous, Elena breathed. That's profitable, Victoria corrected coldly. Thorne sells access to his captives. Rich clients pay millions for even a taste of supernatural power. He's built an empire on suffering. Your husband and friend are small players in a much larger game. Adrian leaned forward. Can you get us information? Access to their operations. Better than that. I can get you inside. Victoria pulled out a tablet and began scrolling through files. Thorne is hosting a gathering next week at his estate outside Seattle. It's part auction, part recruitment. He invites potential clients and searches for new talent. With the right approach, we could infiltrate it. That's too dangerous, Adrian protested. They're specifically hunting Elena. Walking into their headquarters would be suicide. Not if she's pretending to surrender, Victoria said calmly. She looked at Elena. How good are you at acting? ## the risky plan. Elena's heart raced, but her voice stayed steady. What did you have in mind? Victoria's smile was sharp. You contact David and Rebecca. Tell them you know everything but you're willing to negotiate. Say you'll surrender to the Obsidian Court peacefully in exchange for their lives being spared. They'll jump at the chance to deliver you without a fight. It makes them look good to their masters. And once she's inside? Adrian asked, his tone dangerous. She won't be alone. I have access to the estate. I can smuggle Adrian in as part of the security team. Once you're both inside, you gather intelligence, find where Thorne keeps his captives, and identify his weaknesses. Then we plan a real assault. Or we could just burn the place down with everyone inside. Elena muttered, flames flickering across her knuckles. Victoria's eyebrows rose. You've got your grandmother's fire. Good. But you need her wisdom too. Thorne has been doing this for decades. He'll have protections, dampening fields, ways to neutralize your abilities. Rush in with pure rage, and you'll end up in a cell next to his other victims. Elena forced the flames to die. Victoria was right. This had to be strategic, not emotional. Okay, I'll contact them. But Adrian comes with me no matter what. Obviously, Victoria said. You're too valuable to risk alone. Besides, Adrian's binding to your family means he'll literally die trying to protect you. That kind of loyalty is rare. Adrian didn't respond, but Elena saw the tension in his jaw. The reminder of his binding seemed to bother him more than it used to. She wondered if that meant something. Over the next 2 days, they planned meticulously. Victoria used her contacts to map out Thorne's estate, identify key personnel, and understand the security systems. Adrian intensified Elena's training, pushing her to exhaustion and beyond. She learned to maintain fire barriers while moving, to sense the heat signatures of living beings through walls, and to combine her flames with Adrian's for devastating combined attacks. But the training sessions also revealed something else. The more time Elena spent with Adrian, the more she felt drawn to him. It wasn't just attraction, though she couldn't deny he was handsome. It was deeper than that. He understood what she was going through in ways no normal human could. He'd lost everything once too. He knew what it meant to be betrayed and bound by circumstances beyond his control. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, they sat together on the cliff edge watching the sunset. The ocean stretched endlessly before them, painted gold and crimson by the dying light. Thank you, Elena said quietly. For everything. For protecting me, teaching me. For giving me a reason to be strong. You were always strong, Adrian replied. You just didn't know it yet. Your grandmother saw it. That's why she trusted you with this legacy. Elena turned to look at him. What happens after? Assuming we survive this and your debt is paid. What will you do? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. I've been asking myself that question for years. I thought I knew the answer. I'd finally be free to die, to rest after decades of serving others. But lately, he trailed off. Lately, Elena prompted gently. Lately I've been thinking that maybe there are things worth living for. Worth staying for. His eyes met hers, and Elena's breath caught at the intensity she saw there. Before she could respond, Victoria's voice called from the cabin. Time to make the call. Are you ready? Elena stood, brushing sand from her jeans. As ready as I'll ever be. The betrayer's response. Elena sat at the cabin's kitchen table, phone in hand, staring at David's contact information. Her thumb hovered over the call button. Anger burned hot in her chest, but she forced it down. She needed to sound defeated, desperate. She needed to sell this lie. "You can do this," Adrian said quietly, standing nearby with Victoria. Elena took a deep breath and pressed dial. The phone rang 3 times before David answered. "Elena." His voice held surprise and something else. Guilt maybe. Or fear. "Where are you? I've been worried sick. You disappeared without a word." "Stop." Elena cut him off, putting pain into her voice. "I know everything, David. I saw you with Rebecca. I heard you talking about the papers, about the accident you were planning." Silence stretched. Then David's tone shifted, going cold and calculating. "I see. Then you understand you're in a difficult position. Running won't help you, Elena. The people I work with have long reach." "I know. That's why I'm calling." Elena forced her voice to shake. "I want to negotiate. I'll give you what you want, the gallery, the trust fund, even my cooperation with your employers. Just promise me you and Rebecca will be safe, that no one else gets hurt." She heard muffled voices in the background. David was conferring with someone. "You want to surrender? Just like that?" "I'm tired, David. I just want this to be over. I don't want to run anymore and I don't want to fight. Just promise me this ends peacefully." More muffled conversation. Then a woman's voice came on the line. It was Rebecca, and hearing her former best friend's voice made Elena's flames flicker at her fingertips. Adrian gently touched her shoulder, helping her stay calm. "Elena, honey, I'm so sorry it came to this," Rebecca said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. "You have to understand this isn't personal. It's business. Mr. Thorne is very interested in meeting you. If you come willingly, he'll treat you well. You might even like it there. Others like you have found purpose in serving him." "Others like me?" Elena asked, genuinely curious now. "People with gifts. Talents. Mr. Thorne collects the special ones. He appreciates them in ways the normal world never could. He imprisons them and drains their power," Elena thought, but out loud she said, "I just want guarantees. For David and you, and for my own safety." "Of course. We'll arrange everything. There's a gathering next weekend at Mr. Thorne's estate. Very exclusive. You'll be treated as an honored guest, not a prisoner. Come willingly. Demonstrate your abilities and everyone gets what they want." Rebecca's voice turned sharper. "But Elena, if you're thinking about running or trying anything clever, Mr. Thorne has resources you can't imagine. You saw what the shadow hunters could do. That's nothing compared to what he commands." "I understand," Elena said meekly. "Send me the details. I'll be there." After the call ended, Elena set down the phone with shaking hands. "They bought it. They're sending information about the gathering." "Well done," Victoria said approvingly. "You sounded properly broken. They'll be so confident in their victory. They won't see the trap until it closes around them." "What if this doesn't work?" Elena asked. "What if Thorne is too powerful?" Adrian knelt beside her chair. "Then we adapt. We survive. But I promise you, Elena, I won't let them take you. Whatever it costs." "Even your life?" Elena asked quietly. "Especially that. It would be a good end, I think. Better than I deserve, saving someone like you." Elena reached out and took his hand. "You deserve better than dying for someone else's mistakes. You deserve to live, Adrian. Really live." For a moment their eyes locked, and Elena felt that spark again. Stronger this time, undeniable. But Victoria cleared her throat, breaking the moment. "Save the romance for after we survive," she said dryly. "We have 5 days to prepare. Adrian, I need you to practice with suppression collars. Thorne will put one on Elena immediately, something that dampens powers. You'll need to remove it quickly once you're inside." "What about you?" Adrian asked. "What's your role in this?" Victoria's smile turned predatory. "I'm going to make sure Thorne's security has a very bad night. Mysterious technical failures, guards called away to handle emergencies that don't exist. I'll create chaos from the shadows while you two work from inside. #training and temptation." The next 5 days blurred together in a haze of training and planning. Adrian pushed Elena harder than ever, teaching her to fight through pain and exhaustion. He showed her how to draw fire from the air itself when her own reserves ran low, how to sense the presence of other powered individuals, and most importantly, how to hide her abilities. Thorn will test you, Adrian explained during one session. He'll want to see what you can do. Give him enough to be interesting but hold back your full strength. Let him underestimate you. Elena practiced controlling her flames, making them appear weaker and less controlled than they actually were. It was harder than it seemed, requiring precise control to look imprecise. Victoria came and went, bringing equipment and information. She'd acquired detailed floor plans of Thorn's estate, photographs of his key people, and even audio recordings of past gatherings. They studied everything, memorizing faces and names, planning escape routes and contingencies. But at night, when planning was done and Victoria had departed, Elena found herself drawn to Adrian's company. They'd sit by the fire talking about everything and nothing. Adrian shared stories from his long life, historical events he'd witnessed, famous people he'd met, the strange and beautiful things he'd seen across decades. "You make it sound almost worth it," Elena said one night. "Being bound, staying young, seeing the world change." "It had moments of beauty," Adrian admitted. "But beauty without connection is hollow. I watched people I cared about grow old and die. I couldn't form real relationships because I knew I'd outlive everyone. Your family was kind, but I was always an outsider. A guardian but never truly part of their lives." "You're part of my life now," Elena said softly. "Guardian or not, bound or free. You're the first person in years who's been completely honest with me. David lied about everything. Rebecca pretended to be my friend while plotting against me. But you've never lied, never pretended to be anything other than what you are." Adrian turned to look at her, firelight dancing in his dark eyes. "Elena, I need you to understand something. When my debt is paid, when you're safe, the binding will break. I'll start aging normally. I might have 20 years left or 50, but eventually I'll die like any human. Getting close to me means accepting that." "Getting close to you," Elena replied, her heart pounding, "means accepting that I care about you regardless of how much time we have. David promised me forever and it meant nothing. Maybe what matters is being real right now, in this moment." Adrian reached out and gently touched her face. "You're making it very hard to keep my distance." "Then stop trying," Elena whispered. He kissed her then, soft and gentle, like he was afraid she might break. But Elena leaned into it, her hands moving to his shoulders, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, and Elena felt warmth spread through her chest that had nothing to do with her powers. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. "This complicates things," Adrian said, but he was smiling.